Thank you guys for tuning in. First, we are going to welcome to the virtual stage here, Kayla Riggins. Please introduce yourself and let our audience know who you are and how you can and will be serving them today.
The mute button almost won. Okay. I was like, oh no. Hi, everybody. I'm Kayla Riggins. So good to see all of your faces. Thank you for those of you who put the camera on. It's so needed in this still so virtual world. So I appreciate people who have the bandwidth, the capacity and availability, and who have clothes on, because I know a lot of times we don't have clothes on. I appreciate you guys for putting the camera on, because it just really helps with the energy of these spaces. So the mute button did not win, thank the Lord. I'm Kayla Riggins. I am a content and brand strategist, and my job is to teach you all, business owners, brand owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, service providers, how to infuse your story into your content creation so that you can connect with your audience and ultimately convert them. So we'll get to learn more about each other throughout the night and throughout this experience, but that is my spiel, and I am super passionate about helping you all harness the power of storytelling so that you can create better connections with your tribe, your customers, your consumers.
Can we talk about that photo? I mean, man, look at that.
I took that myself.
Woo! I need a brand photo shoot like that.
Yes, I took that myself. That's a part of my brand story too, is learning how to do it myself as well. So not just the strategy, but also creating the content. So yeah.
I will say on that topic, I have done the record a video of yourself using your phone and then just do all these funky movements and then go back and take the still shots. My still shots do not look like that, so I need some help, but it's good. It's a good little tip for you guys if you do need to create content in any way, shape, or form, and you have
I also shot that on my iPhone.
Wow, that looks professional. That looks like a professional shot. So
yeah,
I am excited to learn more from you. That's for sure. I am Jenna Crowley, your host and founder of Raising Influence. Our specialty is in email marketing automation. So I'm not just an event host and the founder of Raising Influence, but my business actually helps you build email marketing. And our mission for this business is to allow you to have email marketing services at an affordable price that really makes your consumers want to receive emails from you in their inbox. What? Like, that's a crazy thing nowadays. Most of us we hate receiving emails in our inbox, but we want to build a relationship. We want to have forward thinking a part of our content creation within the email platform, so that we can connect on a deeper level, build relationships, and actually get to know the contacts behind our system. So I am going to be touching on systems and automation. There's a fly in here. Systems and automation, and really how we can serve our audience and get to know them much better, retain them. Retention is key, using proper and sound systems. Sarah.
Hello. Hi. I'm Sarah Gemmel, and I am a former addictions counselor turned fitness coach. But in this space, I specialize in talking about networking. So I really grew my fitness business when I started networking, and I started networking well. That was when I really saw the most growth. That was when I was able to become 100% self-employed back in 2019. It happened very quickly. I remember Raising Influence was the first event I went to. That was February of 2019, which sparked another event in June of 2019. I was self-employed by July of 2019, making 3 times the revenue by August of 2019. So that was pretty cool. And it just kind of sparked, I was like, wow, like, why have I not been doing this? You know what I mean? And that just really brought to my attention the importance of building a network, the word of mouth, the referrals, like also collaborations with people who will never even buy from me, but like those business friendships and connections and community and stuff like that. It really sparked all of that for me. So now that, it's we're almost in 2022 for the love of the Lord. I teach other entrepreneurs how to network effectively. And I also host a networking group every Tuesday. And I just kind of share the things that I've learned from different networking groups, different events and things like that I've used to grow my business to 6 figures. So that's what I will be doing in this container. And I'm super excited to be sharing that with you guys now and in March.
Yes, yes. So I hope that you guys understand these 3 sort of pillars that I brought together here. So, I talk a lot about systems and automation, boundaries, because we have lives outside of our businesses. So we want to be able to work our businesses into our lifestyles rather than the other way around, and neglect our family, neglect the other things in our life that we love. And so systems, automation, and boundaries intertwined with the correct content, right? And creating content that converts, creating content that really speaks to our audience allows us to network more effectively and better. So these 3 pillars, I think, are key to becoming more visible. And visibility is the key to business growth. We're building businesses to grow and scale. And in order to grow and scale, we can only go so far in our little network, right? We need to tap outside of our little network and grow. And in order to become more visible, we need to actually talk and communicate and be human beings outside of our computer screen. And so we can do that virtually and we can do that in person. And that is through the power of networking. Sorry, I'm trying to go back and forth. So there's this idea behind you're answering this question for yourself, and there's no wrong or right answer here. But I want you to think about it. Do I want to make a small group impact, or do I want to make a global empire? Am I building a global empire? What are you building? And what kind of an impact do you want to make? This is a question you can write down now. This is a question you can answer in the chat. This is something to reflect on. This is a journaling exercise. Small group impact. What does that mean to you? Maybe that's what you're doing right now, but what's your vision for the future 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What does your business look like? What does your life look like? Outline that, create that vision for yourself, because that bigger vision is going to then allow you to break down that vision into smaller little containers and seasons of your life to help you identify what systems you need, what automation, what structure you need in your business, and then pull back the curtain to where you are now and where your audience is to be able to speak to them on a bigger and better level. And what this is going to do is forward thinking. It's going to get you in the right container with the right people, instead of, I've been there, in the wrong container with the wrong people, because we're speaking to everyone, which sometimes is speaking to no one, right? So we need to get very clear on who we are, who our audience is, what we offer, how we can help them, and what their particular pain points are right now in this season of their life. That's our audience, right? And in order to get to know our audience better, we have to communicate with them, build relationships with them. And as you know, that requires a lot of follow-up and manual upkeep and responding to DMs and Instagram. So systems are going to allow you to connect and follow up in an easier manner that allows you to also have boundaries. So think through these things for yourself as we talk today. One thing I do want you to know, I'm an email marketing automation specialist, and I'm here to tell you that you don't need a big list. You don't need a big database. You don't need a big following on Instagram. You don't need to be a huge influencer in order to have a successful business, in order to build a business, grow a business, and scale a business. It is not necessary. You just need to be in the right container with the right people at the right time and following particular strategies and formulas in order to do that. How many of you have showed up to a networking event virtually or live, and you're just like, hey, I would love referrals. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. Referrals welcome. Everybody, just send your people to me. Go back home, tell your mom, tell your friends, tell your family, and just refer them to me, right? Too many. We love that, right? Because we want referrals. That's easy. That's hitting the easy button. I want you to know this formula. Your current clients and your current audience members are going to be the easiest to sell. That's the easiest sale. The easiest sale is your current audience, your current clients. The hardest sale is a cold lead, right? And too often what I see are people are chasing those cold leads. We're trying to run Facebook ads. We're trying to ask for other people to send an email to their list and introduce them to us when people don't know who we are. We're not building that relationship up. So it ends up being really, really difficult, and we end up hitting ourselves over the head because we feel like we're failures. Our business isn't working for us because nobody's coming to us, when really we're just not clear, right? So what I want you to do, I want you to feel like business is easy, and it's easy to grow your business. So one little case study from my story that I want to share with you. If you don't know my background, I come from a people-pleasing background where I kind of stayed quiet for most of my life. I grew up with friends and their parents would just simply say, are you going to be an attorney or are you going to be a doctor? You know, which one of those? And then what kind of lawyer or doctor are you going to be? And I was always just like, and I went with like, I studied law, right? And I became a paralegal because I didn't want to go as far as becoming an attorney. So I didn't really want to. I just felt like I had to follow and fit this mold that other people wanted me to be. My name is Jenna, and the teachers in school would say the word generally a lot, and I would hear my name in the first part of that word and literally freeze. My face would turn red. I would think I'm getting called on every single time, and I just stayed quiet and reserved and never in the public eye. So for me to pass through that fog of fear and show up, and in the picture on the left here, I joined a mastermind. Through that mastermind, the connections that I made, we had 4 in-person live events. I was able to get featured on Forbes, Us Weekly, ABC, CNBC, Fox, and CBS for my framework around building, growing, and scaling an online business. And also through that same mastermind connection, I got connected to Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank, through that mastermind, the connections. Kevin O'Leary actually assisted in our marketing efforts within that mastermind. This would have never happened for me had I not stepped through that fear that I had and signed up for a mastermind that required me to go in person and be with other people. Kayla?
I don't know why, but like every time I'm like the cursor is struggling to get over there to the unmute button. So forgive me. So yes, so as I mentioned to you guys, I know, right? The mute button, it won't win, not tonight though. As I mentioned to you guys, my niche, if you will, as a content and brand strategist is story, right? So really helping you identify your own signature sauce, what's unique about your past experiences, your background, your business, your brand, how you came to be in this space, and using it as your sauce to attract people to your product, your service, or your business, right? So this is one of my former clients. I hate using the word former client because once a client, always a client, but well, for I guess politically correct purposes, this is one of my former clients, Nia. And so Nia and I worked together. And Nia is an author and a brand owner. So she has an apparel line and she is also an author. She turned her book of, she had a journal. She went through a divorce. She had a journal. She turned her journal entries into a book of poems that helped her cope and get through that tough time. And so when she came to me, she had a deal to publish her book. And she was like, I think 2 months out from publishing, and she was kind of in a panic because she hadn't really done the pre-work yet to warm her audience to be ready for her now to be Nia the author. And so what we did was we really took a fine-tooth comb, if you will, to her story and applied strategy for how she was going to start telling her story via social and her online platforms, so that she can warm her audience up to this. And so she started building out her email list by doing that. She started really connecting with her audience by getting very candid about her experiences with going through a divorce. And as a result, she was able to sell 100 copies in the first week of selling the book. of the book going on sale. So that was a huge win for her, because I don't think there was really a strategy in place before of how she was even going to let the people know that she was selling a book, because they were used to her being a brand owner. She has an apparel brand as well. And since then, Nia has been featured in major publications like Essence Magazine, and she's really been able to build a community of women who have also gone through what she went through or are like-minded in that regard. So one of the biggest things that came from our time working together was clarity. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, I'm sure. But clarity and really understanding how to relationship build and speak with your audience in a way that connects with them.
Yeah, real quick, put in the chat what you call yourself. What do you identify?
Oh no, now I can't hear you.
Oh, am I muted?
Okay, go back. I didn't.
No.
I could. Is it my Zoom? I couldn't hear you. Like I saw your head.
Yeah.
I could not hear you. So maybe I'm having technical difficulties over here. So just bear with me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Jenna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so put in the chat what you call yourself, and I'll real quick, and then we're gonna dive into networking here with Sarah. But I started off as a business coach because everybody in the online space is a business coach, and then I never identified as the coach because I identified more with consultant, and I had so much non-clarity, the opposite of clarity. I was a business coach, business consultant. I was a health coach when I started, and then I called myself like an I don't know, launch. You know how people say launch all the time? I turned that into a badass onboarding process because I was like, I hate the word launch. Everybody's using launch. And if you get tied up in like titles and all those things, let me know I'm not alone in the chat. I had to really sit down and write about it and journal about it to identify, okay, who am I? What do I define as coach? What's a consultant to me? What's a strategist to me, and where do I align? And the more aligned I got, the better and more confident I got about talking about who I am and who I serve. Okay, so let's dive into why people aren't networking. This is another thing you guys can put in the chat. This is really interesting information. We're gonna talk to Sarah about networking. For me, I did not network because I did not feel like I was smart enough or had enough credentials behind my name or had enough experience when I first started out to tell other people who I was and how I could serve them. I was afraid of the response. Like, hi, I'm Jenna Corelli, and at first I was a health coach, and then I owned a digital marketing agency, and I was afraid of the response. Oh, so how many clients have you worked with, and what's their success story, and what's their case studies, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just starting out, and like, I'm gonna run to the back of the room and hide in the corner. And when I attended my first couple live events, that's exactly what I did. I would go to an event with a friend and I would attach to that friend the entire time and never talk to anyone else. But that was enough for me to start, just to get in the room and pass that fear. But I didn't actually network, so I didn't get to reap the benefits. So let's talk about networking a little bit with Sarah.
So I'm seeing in the chat too, like we're hitting all the things, right? Like when we don't network or when you don't network, there's usually a couple different things that I've seen just over the years and like the hundreds and hundreds of people that I've either networked with or talked to about networking, right? Is one, we start with the people who don't even see value in it at all, or they don't fully understand its effectiveness, right? So sometimes it can feel like we're taking away from revenue generating activities to do this like meeting over here, right? It could be like, well, I'm so back to back with client appointments and they're paying me and that's where I should spend my time, right? Especially with me being in the fitness space, a lot of fitness coaches, a lot of health coaches in that space feel that way of like, well, I have to be in the gym, right? Or I have to do this, I have to do this. So sometimes it's failure to see its value or just not understanding how it plays a role in the bigger picture of your business. But then we talk about like, once you see the value in it, why are you not actually doing it? Right? Well, you're probably not doing it because there's a major fear. When we talk about networking in particular, there's usually a fear of rejection or judgment, right? Going in, are we going to be rejected for saying that we do this thing? Are we going to be judged for our take on this thing? You know what I mean? It's putting yourself out there. It is scary AF to go into a new networking space, right? And to be presenting yourself. A lot of us deal with imposter syndrome. Let's just say all of us do at some point, right? At some point, all of us deal with imposter syndrome. So if you're kind of in the rut of imposter syndrome or in the depths of your imposter syndrome, networking can be even scarier, right? So then we talk about confidence. Do you have the confidence to show up and put yourself out there? So it kind of ties into that fear. Can we mute ourselves, please? I just got a lot of feedback right into my ears. So we talk, the confidence goes hand in hand with the fear, right? If your confidence isn't where it should be, then you're probably going to be more fearful. So that's something to think about. The last thing, the last reason that I really focus on when people don't network is they don't think it's effective. Right. So we go in and we're like, okay, well, I've tried this networking group over here. I've gone to this event over here. I've done this for networking and it's not working. Right. It's not bringing in money. I didn't get any referrals from it because let's be real. I mean, that's why we go to network. We want to build the referrals. We want to build the word of mouth, right? We want that organic traffic to our business. You're allowed to go into networking with that goal. Right? That's okay. But we learn that in effective networking, that's not how we show up the first time, but like we do. It's like, it's not the end of the world. Everyone shows up to their first networking, like, okay, where's the referral coming from? Right. And it's part of the experience. But when you don't get that referral, it's like, it tells your brain, oh, wait a minute, this isn't working. Right. So there just needs to kind of be a perspective change. And these are usually the reasons why I see people not networking, right? We either don't see the value, we're dealing with the fear, or we don't think it's working. Either it's not been enough time, or you haven't learned how to effectively network.
Yeah. I'm here for the quick tips also. I want to mention another thing. I'm just giving you guys personal stories because I've been through all of what you're going through and everything that you've been through, we've all been through. I liked what Debbie Jo had mentioned. She said, we grew up networking. We've always been networking. We've always communicated with other people. But now that we know what it is, remember, like our children, like they just do things, right? And they don't think about it because they don't know about judgment and they don't know about all these things in the world. And I just love that mindset of a child. And sometimes I want to fall back into that. When we're networking, and one thing that I have found to be super helpful is to think about if somebody was networking with me and telling me who they are and how they want to receive a referral, what would I want? I would want them to actually give me a script. I would want them to give me a written little blurb that I can share with my audience, that I can text to my friends, that I can send out via an email, so that I don't have to think too much. All I have to do is connect with this person, realize that there's something there, and I really like that person. I know, like, and trust them as an individual, and I'd like to refer them out. So as a networker, create that little blurb. Whatever you want people to share with their audience, give them that script to make it really easy, or do the intro. Step in front of the process and fill in the blanks for them so that networking becomes easier and you're not making the other person figure it out for themselves. That's one thing that has really served me well. So let's dive into systems and different types of systems that you can follow to help the business growth process in these areas.
Okay. All right. The mute button didn't win that time. Now, all right. So I grew up in the good old Southern Baptist Church. I'm from New Orleans. So I'm used to call and response. So I want to get the chat popping so that I can learn more about you guys as individuals, so that I can make sure that this message is for you. So if you identify as a service provider or a coach, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Or if you have a different type of business, maybe you have a product, maybe you have like a personal brand, go ahead and drop that in the chat. I just kind of want to get to know more about you guys. Of course, Jenna is a service provider, product and personal brand. DJ says, Christina says service provider. Alyssa says service provider. Louise is a coach. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. And so I also want to know from you guys, how are you generating, I guess, leads and sales within your business? Like if you could sum it up in one word, what would it be? It could be like direct marketing is 2 words, but like direct marketing, if you could sum it up in one word or phrase, what would it be? Maybe it's like Instagram, education, social media stories, Facebook, okay. Social media, IG, okay. Partnership, word of mouth, etc. Okay, word of mouth. That's a very interesting one in 2021. That's great. I had a word of mouth kind of business a few years ago, and it was great. But doubling and tripling your reach via online would be a really good thing for you to tap into. Sarah says IG, some word of mouth. Referrals, but not working hard at that. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for your honesty and your transparency. So I want to really help you guys start to cultivate the relationships that you have with your audience. And so how are you guys creating meaningful conversations within your content messaging? Are you like talking straight at them? Or are you talking to them? And be honest, right? Sometimes we're saying, hey, book a strategy call with me because I'm a good content strategist, right? Or you're saying, hey, buy my candle because it smells good, right? So that's some examples of like kind of talking at them. And then how many of you all would say you are doing the opposite of that, which is creating a connection with them, like really understanding who they are? Come to the altar, confess your sins, okay? DJ says creating a connection, engage through my own experience, okay? Good. So a few things, but the one thing I want you guys to understand and know right now is that your audience is not robotic. And a huge, huge, huge mistake that people are making online when they are ready to sell to their audiences. Jamie says, honestly, I'm posting my product and asking for opinions, constructive advice to help me improve product. Eventually someone asks for the link to my store. Okay, good. Sarah says, telling stories. Perfect. A big mistake that people are making is that they're treating their audience very robotic. Like we're basically advertising ourselves and saying, come work with me, come do this, come buy that. And we're not really giving them a reason to. And I think that there's this big misconception that people will automatically support you because you told them to. And so as buyers, somebody tell me, because we're buyers too, right? We're consumers. So the last time you bought a product or you worked with a coach, I want somebody to drop in the chat, if you can recall, what made you say yes? What made you type in send on your debit card? Don't be shy. Sarah says testimonials, meeting them, spending time, getting to know their character. Okay. They shared with me a need. I had a possible solution. The way they spoke to me, alignment, real, personable, authentic. Testimonials and their success. Followed her on IG, followed her for a long time. Okay. So they gave me a sense that they could help me. Okay. So all of those things, if you had to guess, now this is really one word that I'm looking for every answer that you all gave that made you make a purchase, what would you guess that the word is that what was created that made you actually go through with that transaction? Solution, authentic, great words. Solution, deeply, okay. All right, those are all simple, okay. Those are all great, but here's the one word I want you to keep in mind as you reimagine your content creation. And that word is connection. For every example you all gave that made you click buy on that purchase, it was because of the connection that was created between you and the person selling it. So when you're creating your content, I want you to back into it how you are as a consumer. So often as entrepreneurs, we get caught up in the me, I phase, right? And it's easy because a lot of us start off as solopreneurs. We don't necessarily have the team and the huge machine behind us yet. So it's so easy to get caught up in us and what we need. Hey, you come buy from me, right? But I want you to reimagine creating content the way in which you consume it. So some of the exercises that I have my clients do is I'll have them go through like their bank statements and look at the purchases that they've made over the past 90 days and just jot a note, recall, and just jot a tiny note about why they decided to make that purchase. And every single time it comes back because of some type of connection or interaction that had to do with the person behind the service or product. So the way you consume should be the way you are creating, right? If you like things that make you laugh, your content should be humorous. If you like things that make you think, your content should be thoughtful, inspirational. So remember that the people who we are servicing are human beings. They are not robots. So these very generic call to actions, sometimes demanding call to actions, are not necessarily going to generate the best connections with them because they're humans, right? So use things like emotion. Somebody used the word authentic. I love that one. Authenticity wins every time. Transparency, storytelling, of course, really illustrating what the problem is and how you can solve it. Those are all going to be great ways to go into your content creation, okay? So these are my 4 C's of content creation. I love alliteration, if you haven't picked up on it by now. And so this is a little bit of what I take my clients through, right? And so I want to share some of that with you all today so that you can leave here with some actionable steps to go and do things differently. Yes, I am the queen of alliteration, amongst other things. All right, so the first C is clarity, right? And so this is where you get a really, really good understanding, and you niche down and determine who you are, what makes you unique, and what value you bring, right? There are so many people who do what you do, but nobody does it like you. And in order for you to leverage that, you have to be clear on what that is, right? There are 3 billion content strategists in the world, but it's only one me. Right? And so what makes me unique is I use story, right? So I'm not the content strategist who's going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to help you get 1,000 followers in a week. That's not really my thing, right? So my specific thing is using story, helping you create those genuine connections that then convert your subscribers, right? Another thing about me that's a part of my superpower is I'm not teaching strategies that I just learned or picked up on. I started in this space as a content creator, as a blogger. And then I started working with brands, influencing, making money there. And then I noticed that when I started making real big checks, it was because of the connection that I was creating with my audience through my story, and the brands ate that up. So when I pivoted to content strategy, I started implementing those same strategies, and it worked for my clients as well. So that's another part of my sauce as a content strategist. I'm not just out here, telling you things that I've Googled or learned on the internet. I've actually lived it. So my experiences are really tried and true. So when I ask you, like, what makes you unique, those are the things I'm looking for, because you need to be able to articulate that value prop in your content, that value proposition, right? So how do you let your audience know why they should pick you? Am I making sense? Give me a hashtag making sense in the chat, because, I don't want you guys to leave here tonight like, what? What did she say? I don't get it. And if you don't get it, give me that transparency in the chat and say, I don't get it. Jamie says, makes sense. Jenna says, this all makes sense. Louise says, good. Okay, good. And so the next C, I don't know why I'm holding up 4 fingers, it's number 2. The next C in this, good, Christina says, makes perfect sense, is confidence. And so this is where I help you elevate your mindset so that you can eliminate barriers that keep you from showing up like the authority you are in your space. And so the freebie that I want to give you tonight is to create more than you consume. And so a lot of people struggle around mindset issues, kind of going back to that networking as well, where like we were genuinely networking as kids, but for some reason, once we lose that innocence, the fear complex comes into place, right? And so it's the same with positioning yourself online. Sometimes we can be so afraid of like what people think, how it's going to be perceived, but most importantly, more often than not, it's, well, so-and-so over there is doing such and such. And that's what's secretly eating at you, right? And so the way to help you kind of eliminate those barriers is, once you get clear on your uniqueness and the value you bring, you need to be creating more than you are consuming. If you need to set a time barrier where you literally get kicked out of the apps after spending a certain time, do that. Like, these phones are super smart. We can set up all types of systems to help us accomplish what we need to accomplish, right? And so the more you consume, the more you are adding to someone else's genius. The more you create, you're adding to your own, right? So think about which side of that you want to be on. As a business owner, as a service provider, as a coach, your job is to create so that people can grow from, learn with, interact with you. So if you are spending a lot of time consuming, it's probably subconsciously eating at some of your creativity, hindering some of your get things done type of attitude, right? So I want you to think about that. Let me catch up in the chat. Sarah says she's getting more strict. Yep, getting that number down, down, down. Kick yourself out of the apps. Blinders on, yes. I need you all to be so head down into what you're doing that you don't even know other people exist. Like, I'm always like, what? Oh my God, there's other content strategists? Wow, I had no idea. But I was the only one in the world, right? So I need you guys to be so head down in your own things that you don't see, right? The analogy that I always like to use is, I don't know if you guys have ever been to like a horse race before. What's it called? I don't think it's called a horse race, Sarah. What's it called? I know you probably don't support this.
It's a horse race. I don't support it, but it's called a horse race.
Okay, I know you didn't support it, so sorry, bear with me. But when the horses race, they literally have blinders on. Like, they can't see their peripheral. By the time they make it to the finish line, they don't even realize they won until the blinders are lifted. And so I need you to think about where you are within creating online like that. And so then the fourth C is curation. And so this is where you really use your story to create content of substance in your unique tone of voice. And so I'm gonna break it down like this, right? A lot of us think we need to be doing what everybody else is doing. And so that's why doing things in your unique tone of voice is so important, because that's gonna reflect your brand story, your authenticity, your messaging. A lot of us are not attracting who we want to our specific business, brand, or service because the content that we are creating is copied and pasted from something someone else is doing, because we feel like we need to follow the trends. Reels are super popular, so I need to be on Reels. But if that's not authentic to your unique tone of voice, then your audience won't be able to connect with you. Your people can't find you if you're not showing up as you. Your people can't buy from you if it ain't you, right? So when the incorrect English starts coming out, that's how y'all know I'm really getting serious. But I'm super passionate about this. I'm super passionate about this, and I actually love talking slang. It's kind of fun. But yes, how are we gonna buy from you if it ain't you? And so understanding your unique tone of voice. So again, using myself as an example, I always use myself as a case study, because remember, a part of my brand story is that I started in this space as a creator. So the things that I've been able to prove and help, the results I've been able to help other people get are also the results that I've gotten for myself. Proper English is not a requirement around here. Beautiful. So my unique tone of voice is very direct. I'm a straight shooter. I may hurt your feelings. I may make you feel seen. I will send you an email titled, "This is why your content sucks," right? I will post an Instagram post that says, "Here's 3 reasons why you're not connecting with your audience." I'm very direct, but that's also who I am within my personality, right? And so I pose the same question to you. What is your unique tone of voice? If dancing on Reels is not unique to your brand, stop doing it because it's trendy, right? Confrontational, but so loving. Yeah, I always smooth it over at the end. Thanks, Sarah. I smooth it over at the end, but out the gate, I'm a straight shooter, right? But if you don't, for example, Reels, I hate the dancing and pointing on Reels. It's not my thing. If it's anybody's thing, do it, but it's not my thing. So I've used the Reels in a way that it works for me. So again, understanding your unique tone of voice, how you deliver and communicate to your audience. Some people's tone of voice is humorous. Have you ever consumed somebody's content every time it makes you chuckle? Then their tone of voice is humorous. Have you ever consumed somebody's content and every time it makes you think? Then their tone of voice is thoughtful or inspiring or impactful, right? So like, think about that as well. How are you showing up? What is your unique tone of voice and the way you communicate with your audience? People know when they consume Kayla's content, it's gonna be direct, it's gonna be transparent, I'm gonna tell you the truth, and I'm gonna always come straight at it. I'm not gonna really try to sugarcoat it. So when you think about those descriptors and those adjectives for your own content, what is your unique tone of voice? How do you communicate? DJ says that drove me nuts that everyone kept saying you have to do dancing and point on Reels. No, and mind you, everybody's gonna tell you something different, right? Everybody is. That's why it's so important to use your own discernment and do what feels good and authentic to your specific brand. Hopping on trends is fun. I'm not telling you don't do Reels. Notice nowhere in this that I say don't do Reels, but do them your way. Because if you're dancing and pointing on Reels and it's not authentic to you, that is never going to land with your audience, because we can feel it. You also don't want to do things that aren't authentic to you, because people are going to come looking for something else. And when you can't consistently deliver on that, they're going to go. So then you won't convert the customer anyway. That's why authenticity is so important, because you have to be able to have the capacity to be consistent. And you're never going to be consistent if something is not authentic to you, right? And that was a great transition. I didn't even plan that, but thank you, Holy Spirit, because now we're going to talk about the fourth C, which is consistency. And so this is where I teach my clients how to implement systems that keep them creating quality content like clockwork, right? Full of alliteration. I told y'all I love it. I warned y'all. But let me break that all the way down as well. Somebody let me know in the chat, what does consistency mean? What does it mean to be consistent? And not some generic answer from Google. What does it mean for you to be consistent? Christina says showing up. I love that. DJ says show up as you 100% of the time. Jenna says showing up consistently on your timeline. A schedule that you can follow realistically. Love that. Jamie says to always be putting in the work despite being tired every single day. Okay. Sarah says regular interaction with your audience. Only you can be you. Okay. So here's how I want you to think about consistency. Consistency is not a who can post the most contest. Instead, you should look at consistency as a cadence. There's tons of language on the internet about how often you should post. But what works for the goose may not work for the gander, right? You have to decide what is realistic for you, your strategy, your brand goals, and your capacity, because capacity is so important, particularly as entrepreneurs. A lot of times we're doing multiple jobs. So capacity is so important. And then you have to commit to that cadence and stick to it. That's what consistency is. It's a cadence that you stick to. So if you say for the next 90 days, I'm going to post 4 times a week in my stories, 5 times a week in my feed, send out a news email blast 3 times a week, like write those things down and stick to that cadence and stick to it long enough to yield some type of numbers to help you support it, right? So a lot of times too, we don't stick to things long enough to even see if they worked. I'll ask a client all the time, oh, they'll say, oh, well, I tried it and it didn't work. And I'm like, how long you did it? A week. What? Like, what? So 90 days is the length of time you want to commit to something so that you can yield some type of result, or if not a result, some type of numbers to support whatever results that you get. So that's what consistency is, a cadence that you can commit to. It's not 5 times a week, because 5 times a week for Sarah may be great, but Kayla may be good with 3 times a week, right? So start to reimagine the way you think about consistency, because that's also a lot of why we burn out. Because we set these consistency goals that are unrealistic to our actual capacity and circumstances. Is that making sense? Somebody give me new perspective in the chat if that's changed the way you view consistency. # new perspective. I have to make sure y'all sticking with me. I told y'all I grew up in the old Southern Baptist church and I'm used to call and response. My pastor would say amen walls if people weren't responding. Jenna says new perspective. It's okay. Typos are allowed around here. Same perspective because I've been listening to you. Well, good. Sarah says new perspective. Good. Yes, Southern Baptist Church. All right, good. I'm glad that you guys are picking up what I'm putting down, right? And so the last piece on consistency, well, the last piece for tonight, because I can go about this, but the last piece on consistency is that I want you to understand that this is not a goal-oriented medium, right? You can set goals all you want. That is not how you stay consistent. The secret to your consistency is rooted in the systems that take place to help you accomplish the goal. So you have to document, create, document, and fall in love with the system that help you reach your content goals. You can set a goal, I'm gonna post 4 times this week, and you do it. By the end of the week, you're like, great, I hit that goal. But then next week you post 3 times. The week after that, you post once, and then the week after that, you ghost your audience for 2 weeks. That's because you were focused on the goal of posting 4 times that week. So you told your brain that that's what you were gonna do. So to release that accomplishment, right? You wanted to be able to, I did it. But what you didn't do, I'm sorry, Alyssa. Alyssa says, I feel attacked. I'm sorry, I don't mean it. But I kind of do, because I want you to do better. So here's the thing. The secret to consistency is rooted in the system. So yes, you posted 4 times that week, but did you document what you did? Did you have an actual strategy behind what got you to that level of consistency? So the strategy and the system is, I brainstormed all of my blog posts on Sunday. I actually put everything into a Word doc on Monday, scripted it out. On Tuesday, I batch created all of the reels, and on Wednesday, I scheduled them. And that's how the following week, I had 4 consistent posts. It's the system that you have to get really, really good at, because you're going to need to do this over and over again. Goals are great, but a lot of times with goals, we don't look at them as something we need to hit over and over. And with your content messaging and your content strategy, you need to hit goal over and over, right? I had a goal to graduate from high school, but I only need to do that 1 time. So this is different, right? Analogy I love to use, which is crazy because I don't even like sports or know that much about basketball, but what I do know is that LeBron James is a multi-NBA champion. They tell me he has like 5 rings or something like that. If anybody's a basketball fan in the chat, fact check me, feel free to be like, nah girl, 7, whatever, right? He has multiple rings. He's an NBA champion. That's the goal. I'm sure he wants a few more before he retires. So the goal is for him to win NBA championships. However, there's a system in place that keeps him being a multi-NBA champion. Maybe he wakes up every morning at 5 a.m., he meditates, he drinks a green juice, jogs around the block a few times, kisses his wife, drops the kids off to school, then heads to practice. That's the system that keeps him hitting that goal, right? So I want you to think about your content strategy that way. When you're putting it together, consistency is going to require systems that you can commit to doing over and over and over again. You've got to fall in love with the systems. So when you hear people say you got to fall in love with the process equals the system. Because the goalless thinking is not going to work. Having goals in your thinking is not going to work in content creation, because it's something that you need to do consistently. Set your goals, yes, but make sure that that's not the focus. That's not what you're falling in love with. Most people are like oozing over the idea that they're going to post all of this time and all of these things. Fall in love with the fact like, oh my God, I have a well-oiled machine where I'm not waking up every day and stressing about what to post. I'm very clear on my messaging. That's the system. Okay. Louise says, I feel terrible if I don't reach posting goals, but need a system to post them for me. Exactly. Let's see. I missed a few chats. Jenna says, that's me showing up to events physically, but then hiding in the corner. Yes. Sarah says, Louise, you're not alone. So those are the 4 C's of content creation. I hope that helped change some perspective for you. Hope you took really good notes.
I know I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I definitely took notes. And I wanna remind you guys, I just want to highlight, because I wrote down, you need to get really good at the system, not the goal. And the process equals the system. And there's a system that's keeping you hitting that goal. I want to just highlight reverse engineering. If you've hit a goal, but you're not sure what the process was that got you to that goal, and you want to continue hitting that goal. I think a lot of times we try and reach a goal, attain the goal, but then we don't know how we actually got there. And that's a time for reflection. And when I say reverse engineering, you're asking yourself, this client just said yes to me, just signed a contract, just paid me. How did I end up on a sales call with that client, right? How did that happen? Where did they come from? What platform did they come from? And kind of backtrack the steps to create your system if you don't know what that is. One thing I just wanted to note. And so this is a picture of me in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, from Pennsylvania, because one of my core values is authenticity, staying true to myself. I fight it all the time because of all the noise, the white noise that is out in the world, telling you how to show up, telling you what system you're supposed to be following for the industry that you're in. And it doesn't always feel aligned to me. And so one of my core values is to show up who I am in my moment and how I want to serve my people. And I entered a contest online on Facebook. It was a social media contest to win a 30-minute speaking engagement on stage. This was my very first speaking engagement, and I won because everybody was supposed to do a 2-minute pitch on Facebook, on a Facebook Live, and they were all doing it in this professional, background with the lighting on and whatever. And I was gonna miss the deadline, so I just took out my cell phone. I recorded a video. It ended up being over 2 minutes. It was pouring down rain. I was in my car with my newborn in the back. And I just said, hey, this is how I'm showing up today. This is my current situation, but here's why I deserve to win this speaking engagement. And social media voted me as the speaker. And I always remind myself of that moment, because I was chosen by social media, by the mass audience who was picking the winner, because of my authenticity, because of my core value of showing up vulnerable in a very vulnerable state. And yes, being real. So I wanted to share that story with you because it's really carried me forward in my business. I very often battle with that guy on my shoulder, that devil on my shoulder telling me to do things a certain way when it doesn't feel authentic to me. And every time I show up in my authentic self, unapologetically me, that's when I make forward movement. And obviously the forward movement that you make when you show up as your true authentic self allows you to have experiences and freedom and connection, and get on the cover of a local magazine, be a part of a book collaboration, travel with your family. Those are the things that you get when you show up unapologetically you. And oftentimes we think, that person did it because insert whatever story you put in your mind. I can't do it. They did it because they're special in some certain way. And I want you to know that that's not true. If they can do it, that just means that you can do it, and you can probably do it better, right? So I want us to always focus on the positive. When I talk about reverse engineering, stop focusing so much on what didn't work in your business or in your life, and focus more on what did work, and let's do more of that. Let's bring Sarah back to share a story on about Savannah.
Hello again. So I just lost my notes on the Google Doc. Literally, Jade just went away. I don't know. So I've been looking at them nicely the whole time Kayla was talking, and then when I need them, they're gone. So I have been, like I said, networking since 2019. I did a lot of networking, kind of chatting with other people, but then I started to get into more of a space where it was more like coaching and mentoring and actually teaching people, right, how to effectively network. So Savannah was someone who I worked with who was prioritizing the networking. She saw it. She saw the value, right? She was going to the networking meetings, but she wasn't really seeing the ROI from them. Right? The referrals weren't coming in, the collaborations weren't coming in. So this is someone who I sat down with, and we actually focused specifically on like the pitch and the ask, because there's multiple facets to networking, right? So we say all the time, like, okay, we've been networking our whole lives, or you're networking every day, but I'm talking about like intentional networking, right? You go to a meeting, you go to an event, intentional spaces where you're sharing about your business and you're asking for a referral, you're asking for a collaboration, you're asking for a partnership. There's a lot of different facets to networking that you have to strategically think about, right? You have to strategically think about which event you're going to go to, which meeting are you going to go to, which spaces are you going to put yourself in, what kind of people are you going to put yourself in front of, right? And then once you show up, now you have to strategize. What are you going to say, right? Like, because most networking events or meetings or whatever, there's a traditional, like, we all go around, we share what we do. You have 30 seconds to give your pitch or to give your referral, whatever, right? What are you going to say? You can't just show up and wing it. Right? I can tell the difference. I've been doing it long enough now. I can tell if you prepared your commercial, we call it, or your pitch before you showed up. Right? And when you have that intention of like, what am I going to say? And then the other intention is, I'm going into this. What do I really want to get out of this networking? Right? We want to build those deeper relationships. It's not that I'm going to get a referral right now. It's the fact that I'm going into this space and I'm building the deeper connections and the deeper relationships to, you know, reap that benefit later, to get the referrals later, right? You go into it thinking about, how can I build better relationships with these people? How can I also help them so that they also want to help me? Right? How many times, can you tell me in the chat, how much you network? Do you network weekly? Do you network monthly? Let me know in the chat. I'm interested to know. And I don't mean like we're always networking, right? I mean like going to like a meeting and putting yourself in a specific space. And I want you to tell me if you've ever been to a networking event or meeting or whatever, where you can tell the person is just like, they want to talk about themselves and they just want to sell you and they just want to talk about themselves the whole time, right? Tell me if you've had that happen to you. Just say yes or no in the chat. We've all met that person, right? That comes and is like, here's what I do. Here's what I need from you. Here's what I want from you. And then they never ask about you. They never ask what they can do for you. They never ask what you do. They never ask for you to share about where you came from or what you do. Right? So, I can't see the chat on my phone. A lot of people see it, right? And it feels icky. A lot of what Kayla said, right? When you think about why did you buy from someone else and then recreate it, I want you to think about how you felt when that person came to you and was just like, here's what I want and here's what I need. And you go into networking with, how can I also help you? Right? So back to Savannah, this is something that I had talked about her with. How do we like take all of these different facets of networking, right, and strategize them? And I didn't even touch on what happens after you leave the meeting or the event. This is just in the meeting or the event, right? There's a whole strategy to it. And this is where it's really good to start with just getting yourself in the spaces, but then you have to go and you have to strategize and to make it the most effective so that you get the most ROI, right? So Savannah and I talked about like her commercial, just something as simple as that, really nailing down a really specific commercial pitch, right? It's so much more effective. And if you think about when you go into a networking room, how many people are there usually? 10, 15, 20, and like the smaller ones, or 100, usually the ones with 100 or more are not sharing commercials. But I want you to think about, you're in a group of like 10 people, right? And you're going around, you're sharing your commercials, you're sharing your little 30-second pitch, and everyone's going around. By the time you get to the third person, you're like, not listening, right? You're thinking about your pitch, right? You're probably thinking about what you want for lunch. We tend to get very glossed over because the pitches are just like kind of the same thing. So when you stand up and you're like, hey, and you come with this energy and you come with this specific, very clear ask, it's a breath of fresh air. It makes people stop in their tracks. It makes them listen to you. Right. So anyway, so that was some things that we had done with Savannah. And now she has pivoted her business, which is pretty cool. I have seen the connections that she is building. She's gotten into spaces where she's growing as an entrepreneur. She's bringing in new clients. She's building an email list. She's getting really clear in these collaborations that she wants. And it's not necessarily a revenue win, right? It will be. But she's seeing these wins where I can see the collaborations that she's doing online, and I can see the consistent content she's sending out to her email list. And I can see her pitches are actually leading to someone helping her out, right? This is someone I also happen to network with every week. But so that's a little bit about Savannah. I think it's really important to just be very intentional in networking, right? Intentional is like the key word. If you take nothing else from anything else that I said, it's being intentional. And it's the same thing with collaborations with other business owners. When we're in collaborations together, Kayla and I have collaborated together, right? We both have to show up and be very intentional about getting the other person a referral or showing up and doing our part of the collaboration. I can say to Jenna, oh, I want to collaborate with you. Yes, let's do that. And then we won't talk for 6 months. And like what Jenna said in the chat, we just forget, right? We need to show up very intentionally. Right.
Something. I always make sure I'm the one to schedule the call on somebody else's time, because if you don't have a follow-up system, you're putting all the trust in them to follow up with you if you didn't write information down.
Right.
So like at a live event with like business card passing, I'm always the one to accept the card because I know I have a follow-up system instead of giving my stuff away and just assuming that person is going to reach out to me. So, I mean, we talk about systems a lot, and a lot of times we're thinking systems, you know, there's certain systems, right, that we have to follow, but some of these are just not created. We create our systems, we create our processes in a way that works for us. And all of the things we're talking about is not progress equals perfection, because nobody's perfect, but practice equals forward momentum. You're going to get better and better and more confident in every area the more you practice and then continue. If you've ever done a webinar, I'm not like a webinar coach or anything or a genius at webinar, but people do the same webinar over and over and over and over again, and they tweak their slides and they tweak their content until it's perfect and converting exactly the way that they want it to. That's practice equals forward momentum, and it works. So our promise, really, the reason why we hosted this webinar is to show you our authenticity. We want to bring that out and promise that, you know, all three of us, Sarah, myself, and Kayla, we will always be authentic. We will always be vulnerable. We want you to feel comfortable in our space. This is a safe space to share stories, to help lift each other up. And that is really our promise to you. We will always share with you. I'm going to go through the 5 mistakes now that I want you to remember from this webinar. Mistake number 5 is not understanding what your audience desires. And Kayla really talked about tapping into your audience and understanding what your tone of voice is, you know, the adjectives that you use to describe who you are and how you, your purchase history and actions, and using that to connect with your audience, understanding that your audience and how they like to learn and what their learning styles are, and showing up for them in the way that they want to be seen and heard. And listen to them, not always focusing on ourselves. I am somebody who can get carried away in talking, if you haven't noticed, a lot. And then I need to stop and say, okay, your turn. Now it's my turn to listen. And sometimes I need to hold myself back to not interject and switch back to my story because it's relatable to theirs, right? So for me, I'm always very aware that I need to listen, write down and journal, keep track of what I heard and how that's relatable to what I may have to offer, and follow up with them with my proven system in order to make that connection. Another backstory, my very first nutrition seminar that I hosted, I regurgitated textbook language from a health book because I was young and I was teaching nutrition to a group of people who were older than me, and I felt like I just needed to spit out this terminology that even I didn't understand, and all I got was blank stares. And then the picture on the right was the next seminar I hosted, where instead of just regurgitating textbook language, I showed up with a food scale, a banana, and a bag of Skittles. And I literally said, both of this banana and this bag of Skittles have the same amount of carbohydrates in them. And I weighed the banana and the Skittles, and I explained to them the difference in carbohydrates from a banana to a bag of Skittles and what that did inside the body. And people were taking notes, and they understood because I was relating it to something that they could relate to, and not just regurgitating textbook language that means nothing to somebody who hasn't studied nutrition. So are you just distracting your audience with random stuff, or are they actually paying attention to you? I know I've talked about the Skittles and banana for a while. And then always remember that your audience wants you. They want you to show up who you are, vulnerable, authentic, because that's how they're connecting with you. Mistake number 4, not having a system at all, or not having the right systems in place. You may have tools and softwares and systems and processes that you're following because somebody else online told you to follow it. You might be on Instagram because somebody told you to be on Instagram, but your people could be on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter, right? So we want to reflect on the systems that we do have or don't have, and try and find the ones that really align and convert for us. For me, that I put a picture of myself with my 2 daughters because for me, systems have given me the freedom to be on the school board at my daughter's school, to be at every practice. One of my missions is to never miss a athletic practice or sports game or anything with the school, because I have my own business and I can create systems that will work for me and allow me to be present in these places. Mistake number 3, giving too much away for free and being a yes person. We can be kind, wholehearted people, but we need to have boundaries, and we need to make sure that we're not giving everything away for free. I was once told, give it all away for free. I would have networking coffee chats, all these lead magnets scheduled, and I wasn't getting business, and I didn't know why, because I was giving away the how, I was giving away the process and the system for free. So we have to find that fine line between free value and something that you should be paid for and charging what we're worth. RBF energy, I chuckled when I created this. RBF, resting bitch face, sorry for cursing, resting baby face. My child has it, my 1-year-old. But really what this is in the energetic space is showing up without integrity, having a lack of mindset, money mindset, subconscious beliefs, right? Yeah, we all have a little RBF going on, I think. But we need to be attentive to our energy. And we talked about energy showing up in networking events. If you're the next one to speak with some boom, right? Speak with some energy, because people who are falling asleep and not attentive, they're going to wake up and they're going to listen to you because of your energy. So wherever you are energetically, a whole other webinar is on your cycle syncing, cycle alignment. A lot of people talk about cycle syncing and alignment with relation to food and exercise. I always talk about it in relationship to systems and how you can schedule your day-to-day activity and schedule your assignments and live videos and live events on your cycle when your body is most primed to show up with that energy that you need for that particular situation. Mistake number 1, we talked about networking. We should all be networking at this point, or at least understand that networking is important at this point. So make sure that we're networking, 1, and 2, networking effectively. And all of these things, fine-tuning all 5 of those things, is going to improve your overall marketing. You need to know who you're talking to and what they need. You need to have the right systems in place to nurture and serve your people and yourself. You need to take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, so that you can show up as your highest self and in your highest vibration, because how you feel is 100% going to be how you show up, and that's going to dictate your ability to sell and grow in your business, grow and scale. You need to be networking, getting in front of new people consistently. There's that consistent, getting your offer in front of more people. The more people you talk to, the more likely your offer is going to spread, right? And those referrals are going to come. Remember, we said referrals welcome. And if they're not your ideal client, that does not mean that they're not the right audience for you. They might know somebody who is your ideal client. They might be on their way to becoming your ideal client. That's one thing that I learned, is I'm speaking to the person who is in preparation to be my ideal client. And through my free value, I can position them to being that ideal client. And once they're positioned in this place of being my ideal client, I've already built that know, like, and trust factor with them, so they're ready to purchase. And that's an interesting concept to understand as well. So private coaching, you could spend upwards of $10,000 or more, especially finding people in all these specialty areas to help you set up systems, email marketing. I'm an email marketing specialist too, and I offer the one-on-one coaching. What we have to offer you is our conference. Our 4th annual Raising Influence conference is a ticket to the 2-day conference in Florida is $697. And what I want you to think about is the time that you dedicate to yourself, you dedicate to networking properly, you dedicate to showing up in your authentic space, in this container, the safe space, and what you can get back, the ROI, the lifetime ROI of the connections, the partnerships, the collaborations that come from a live conference, not just an event, but a conference and a workshop where we are actually implementing in the room. We have an intimate philosophy where we have general admission tickets and then a VIP ticket, and we work with you one-on-one in an intimate setting to make sure that you walk away from our conferences. This will be our 4th annual coming up in March of 2022, and we want you to feel like you are in a one-on-one partnership with each of us. And that is exactly what I'm the host of the event, and each year I work harder and harder to make sure that every single person feels like they are special, loved, and cared for, and they have the right processes in place to move their business forward. Oh, my pretty picture's not showing there. So Raising Influence Conference, $697. What you're going to get, just like Daphne and Amanda, magical, attracting some of the coolest people I've met in a long time, a confidence boost. Amanda actually went and pitched herself on a Women in Digital Orlando. She's in Orlando chapter, and she got chosen to be the lead of the chapter in her space because of the confidence that she had when she left the event. We want you to know that you're going to feel like there are other people in the room, even people on stage, who are relevant. You can see yourself on that stage. One thing that I do is I bring people who have stories to share, who have systems and processes to share with you, that you can see yourself on that stage the next year. And we've had several people speaking and coming up and actually being in the spotlight in years to follow, who have come to our event and hid it in that back corner like I always did. Community. This is a testimonial from Emily Bowie. She's grateful for community and the sisters that she found at Raising Influence. Her cup is so full. Sacred space. This is how we want you to feel. And our early bird invitation for our next 4th annual conference is $697. And we're also going to be giving, this is brand new, we have not done this in the previous 3 years that we've hosted this conference, a group mastermind for the amount of months that you have your ticket leading up to the event. The event is a 2-day weekend, March 17th and 18th of 2022. So if you bought your ticket this month, then you would have 5 months inside of a group mastermind completely free. And if you're thinking, I don't have an audience, I want you to know that you do not need an audience in order to show up at a live event. And the mastermind component is really in place so that we can position you. Remember, I told you, you might not have an ideal client in front of you right now, but we can position you to be an ideal member of our audience, to put these systems in place to help you with your content so that when you show up, you're clear, you're confident, you know exactly who you're speaking to, what you're offering, and you can get the absolute most ROI out of a 2-day live event and conference. This is a chance we're going to give you inside the mastermind, a chance to practice your pitch, a chance to intro yourself, to jumpstart the event networking prior to the event. You get the chance to figure out what your brand story is and then actually come to the event with that brand story. And we're also going to audit the systems that you currently have in place so that you know exactly what you need to tweak, to fine tune on our event weekend. So if you're stuck, you're feeling stuck with no offer, again, the 5 months that we have together leading up to this event will help you get the clarity on that offer. So this is what we're gifting to you. 2-day ticket to a live conference and workshop. In the past, we've done an event, which has been a lot of hype, a lot of connection, but a lot of, events are just kind of like high energy, high vibe hype. We are mixing that in our 4th year with conference and workshop style things. So we want you to actually implement in the room. We want to walk around and coach you during this event weekend. A 5-month mastermind, online networking database. This is something we've done in the past. It gives you free marketing. Anybody who has attended our events, you know that you are listed in an online database on our website for free marketing. So anytime you do go to live events or virtual conferences, you can share the link to the online database, and your feature is under the industry that your business is in. We're also going to audit your systems with our Build, Grow, Scale systems audit. And the value of all of this is just under $5,000, probably more. And our investment full-time for general, or full price for general admission ticket is going to be $800, but for early bird, it's $697 for the mastermind and the event and everything that is included, plus access to the three of us because we care and we want to help